Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Yazadov's Chess Channel, and welcome to a very special video that I decided to share with you today. It's a video in which I would love you to vote for the game of the year of the Computer Chess Championships and TCEC seasons that we have followed in 2020. I think we have seen really some great, beautiful, and immortal chess games, and now it's for you to decide which game was the best. I think you have a tough decision because I've really separated, I think, the top five games of 2020. So the first game, and when you vote, I just wanted to maybe write, in my opinion, the first game or the second, third, fourth, or fifth game was the best. We have here a game played by Stockfish NNUE, and here Stockfish played with the white pieces. What the cool part about this game was that it was a forced 15 move, forced 20 move tactical sequence. So basically, Stockfish opponent had to play the next 20 moves really accurate, but still it was a losing game because you know that Stockfish calculates this tactics very easily. So here, be prepared. We have really this best 20 moves, really forced immortal tactical sequence by Stockfish and NUE. Here, after the move knight to e5, Stockfish and NUE sacrifice the rook. I'm not going to explain the whole games because I've analyzed these games. I've created videos about these games. I've covered them on my YouTube chess channel. You can also check them out. Here, after the move rook to e5, we have bishop to e5, knight takes c7. We have really a forced tactical sequence. What here Stockfish opponent is trying to do is to at least provoke some kind of weakness. But now after bishop to c7, we have here the threat. Queen to e3. So as I said, 20 moves. Really, everything is forced. You have to play something like queen to b2 in order to get your queen here to b7. We have queen to queen takes e7. If you take, for instance, queen to h6, then you have only one check and the queen will find a way into the game to defend. Here, after the move queen to e7, queen to b8 was played, but now d6. This was also a very cool move. Again, a forced move here for black. Bishop to d6. Now queen to h4. The queen is sneaking in. You have to cover, but now comes g5. Again, we have really a forced move. Bishop takes d2, but now the queen gets in. And we have now a very nice check because this bishop is supporting it. You cannot take, you have only one move, but now queen to h6. Again, after king to g8, we have now bishop to d3, threatening here, checkmate on h7, queen to b7, a check, not a problem. We have f3, so everything is pretty much forced, so that's why I think this game really deserves to be on our top 5 list. Here, after move f3, here bishop to c4, again, black is simply lost, you have to cover, but now queen to f6, we have king to f8, again a check, king to g7. Now finally bishop takes f7, and after trades of pieces, here you see bishop to c4. This is simply too much to handle. Here, after a couple moves, black had to resign. So this was, I think, really cool game, really a forced tactical sequence for 20 moves, which is really incredible, even in this top engine games, because we have to know these engines are calculating these tactics very fast. Also, Stockfish opponent could find in the beginning maybe some counterattack opportunities, but when Stockfish has the opportunity to strike like this, Stockfish will do it, and I think it was really one of the most beautiful chess games of 2020. So let's check out now another game. Here we have again a very cool game by Stockfish and NUE. Here, after the move bishop to e7, in my opinion, maybe this game is really one of the best chess games even in chess history. Here, Stockfish and NUE played the move queen to h5, sacrifice the queen. I've asked now also when I've covered the game, what would you do? And many of you talked about the move rook to g6. In the beginning, I talked about this move also immediately. This move rook takes g6, but here queen to h5 was played, g takes h5. Now you see how these rooks come very active into the game. King to d8 had to be played, rook to g7. There are also some threats with knight to c6 to if the queen, for instance, gets deflected, so it's simply too much pressure here to handle. We have knight to a8, we have rook to h8, and now king to c8. We have again these two rooks. These two rooks are really, I think, the most annoying rooks that I've seen in my life. After rook to g8, we have now clear path for pass pawn here on the h file. We have rook to a4, and now simply h7, rook takes, and here we have a new queen. The queen sacrifice was correct here by Stockfish and NUE. Knight to b6 here. After trades of pieces, we have rook takes e7, and basically it was game over because the king gets deflected from the defense of the rook on a7, and it was game over. Again, really attacking brilliancy by Stockfish and NUE, and I think also that this game deserves to be on our list of this top 5, so you can also maybe vote for this game. So let's check out the next game. Here again, a game by Stockfish and NUE. Here it's a very complicated game, and Stockfish found really a great way to create dynamics, I think, in the game here after the move rook to c7, which was the last move by Stockfish opponent. Stockfish played a very aggressive move d6, which basically opened the whole position. Taking with the queen is not an option because you have the discovered attack with move bishop to b5. Here in the game, rook to c6 was played, but now the knight comes very active into the game. Knight after the move d7, queen to d7, knight to f5. The knight comes very active into the game. Here castling was played, queen to b4, queen to c7, and now the bishop comes on c2, king to h8. We have bishop to b3, bishop to c8, h6, bishop takes f5. We have e takes f5, rook to d8 after trades of rooks. Basically, what happened here in the continuation of the game, that black pieces got paralyzed. This activity by the rook, this activity by the queen, and the activity by the bishop, and still this potential activity of this knight was simply too much to handle. Here, queen to d6 was played, a3, knight to c8. It was sort of a Zugzwang game in which black didn't have any good moves. After the move a4, we have knight to e7, a takes b5, a takes b5, and now after queen to b5, finally we got our pawn back. But now after knight takes f5, bishop to c2 again, the knight, as I said, found a way into the game, knight to g3, and here after f5, bishop to f5, here the game was completely lost for black, because you saw how these pieces got really paralyzed by the rook and the queen only. Now this rook comes very active into the game. Here knight to a6, queen to b2, queen to f6. Here the king is endangered too much here, the black's king, and Stockfish and he won the game very effectively at the end. Rook to d1, here queen to b3, knight to f5. You see there's simply too much pressure to handle. Here knight to e3. Now again the queen, you see how Stockfish goes all over the board. Here king to g7, knight to f5, really this tiny little attacking moves by Stockfish. Rook to e7, I've covered, as I said, also this game. Queen to f5, here bishop to b1, knight to g8, knight to f5, the fork, and it was game over. So it was really intense game, maybe not with this immediately brilliant attacking this tactics, but I think it was a very cool game here by Stockfish, and this d6 move in the beginning that split the pawn structure, that opened the position, was a great attack by Stockfish and Yuni, and I think also this game deserves on our list to be on our list of this top 5. You can maybe also vote for this game. So let's check out now a game by Komodo. Komodo here played against Stockfish. Here it was a Sicilian, it was a sharp Sicilian, like Sicilians should be. And here after move f4, Stockfish and NUE played the move b4, and Komodo responded here really well with one of the most brutal tactics, played simply knight takes e6. After f takes e6, we have rook takes g6. Here rook to f7 was played, and now after a takes b4, knight to b4, this bishop comes very active in the game. The pieces of blacks are simply so out of game, they're simply pushed too far away from the action. Here after the move rook to f6, another sacrifice by Komodo. Here rook to f6, we have queen to d4, bishop to e7, and now taking out this knight. Still white is up, white is down the exchange, but the attacking formation is again simply too much to handle here for black. Rook takes f4 was played, but now bishop to e3, queen to b3. Now the clear target is the weak pawn on e6, bishop to c4, rook to g6, and now bishop to f4. We're attacking all over and over again these weaknesses that black has, of course. King to f7 was played, bishop to d6, rook to d8, rook to f1, first the check, of course, after trades of pieces. Here very important move e5, and now bishop to e2. We have knight to a4. Of course we want to take out this very important square, then further attack the position. H4 was played, but now knight to b6, also good square for the knight. In the continuation of the game, queen to c6 was played, bishop to h5, king to g7, bishop to f3. here trading off the pieces, and here Komodo went into a favorable endgame with 2 minor pieces against the rook. But what the good part about the setup is that we have protected here our pawn on g2, and the game was completely winning here for white. So let's see now another game. It was a game played by Leela Zero here against Stockfish from the TCEC season 18 super final. Here it was really one of the most immortal queen sacrifices that I've seen in my life. Here after the move knight to b4, here Leela C0 sacrificed the queen, queen to b4. We have bishop takes b4, and now after a takes b4, f5, and now knight to f6. The knight comes very active into the game. Look at this bishop controlling all of this dark squares in front of the king in the game. Stockfish try king to h8, but now rook to d4. We have now a potential rook battery on the d file. This bishop is lost anyway. Here in the game, rook to c7, but the battery is simply too much to handle. Rook to d1. We have rook to e7, but now this pawn comes really active into the game, which was really cool. It was also a great example how you should use all of your pieces in the attack. All of our pawns, all of our minor pieces, all of our rooks, the queen have to participate in the attack. Now this pawn is a very important move, because a6 is not a possibility. You get simply b6, and if you play b6, this pawn is basically holding the whole queen side, which was very cool move here by Leela C0. b6, king to h2. We have rook to b7, knight to g5. You see now these knights are attacking the king. Even without the queen on the board, this activity of the minor pieces is simply too much to handle. Queen to c8, rook to d2. Here black's pieces are really paralyzed. You cannot move the rook, you cannot move this rook anywhere, you cannot move the queen, you cannot move the bishop. If you move the bishop, then you have some back rank problems. So that's why this was really a beautiful position here by Leela C0. Rook to b7, rook to d4, rook to c7, here rook to d4, and now after f4, here knight to e6. Very cool move, and now we can take out this one. Knight to f6 was played here. The queen is out of game. Knight takes h7. Here even e6 is a possibility. Rook to e6, but now the fork, and we can first play the check. Black has of course to sacrifice the queen now back, and after bishop to f8, it was again very cool continuation, because this rook is also trapped. You cannot move the rook. You are vulnerable to some checkmate threats here. So that's why here again it's Zugzwang position for black. Here rook to b7. We have king to g3. The king can now play much active into the game. Here rook to d7, a couple of checks you can play, but after the move king takes e3, it was game over. So this, in my opinion, were the 5 best games. I probably missed some of these games because many games have been played in some computer chess championships, but also in some TCEC seasons. So as I said, these were the games that I've analyzed. I sorted these 5 games out. You can also maybe suggest a new game which you think was simply the best. These were really incredible 5 games. You can vote now for the game of 2020. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. If you want to see the whole games, you can check out my commented chess games played by computer series. Here's the link. And if you want to see mortal games by humans, check out my best chess games of all time series. Here's also the link. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.